Let's talk about Cleopatra, the queen who wasn't just known for her political genius, legendary romances, and dramatic exits, but also for her love of pickles. Yes, the same crunchy cucumbers soaking in brine that you slap on a cheeseburger or fish out of a jar at 2 a.m. when life has gone sideways. Some ancient accounts claim Cleopatra believed pickles were the secret to her beauty. That's right. Before there were 14-step skincare routines and serums that cost more than rent, there were pickles. And that leads us to today's question. Were pickles truly Cleopatra's beauty secret, or just another ancient myth? Let's find out, right here, on History of Food. When we think of pickles today, most of us imagine a dill spear perched next to a sandwich, or maybe the juice people swear by as a hangover cure. But in the ancient world, pickling wasn't just about taste. It was survival. Pickling was a method of preserving food long before the advent of refrigerators, freezers, and best-by dates. Cucumbers, cabbages, olives, you name it, they all got dunked in salty brine or vinegar to keep them edible. To Egyptians, Greeks, and Romans, pickles weren't some quirky side dish. They were practical, portable, and packed with flavor. Soldiers carried them into battle. Merchants stocked them for long voyages. And in Cleopatra's case, pickles weren't just pantry staples. They supposedly became part of her personal brand. The story goes that Cleopatra credited pickles for maintaining her beauty, charm, and vitality. Now, it's worth noting, Cleopatra was a master of self-promotion. She knew how to cultivate an image. Aligning herself with divine beauty and godlike allure was part of her strategy. If she could convince people that a humble cucumber and brine gave her radiant skin, then suddenly pickles weren't just food, they were mystical. And apparently, this worked. Julius Caesar himself was a fan of pickles and believed they contributed to military strength. Roman soldiers ate pickles regularly, thinking it made them healthier and more resilient. So maybe Caesar's fascination with Cleopatra wasn't just her wit and political smarts. Maybe he was intrigued by her pickle-powered glow. Now let's pause and ask, was Cleopatra onto something, or was she just running an early version of influencer marketing? Surprisingly, pickles do have some benefits. They're low in calories, high in vitamins, depending on what's being pickled, and the fermentation process can promote gut health by introducing probiotics. That said, ancient pickling wasn't exactly standardized. Sometimes it was just salt water, sometimes vinegar, sometimes a questionable mix of both. And while Cleopatra probably wasn't worried about sodium intake, a modern doctor might raise an eyebrow at building your beauty routine around jars of brined cucumbers. Still, we can give her credit. Eating pickles wasn't the worst health tip to come out of history. At least she didn't tell people to smear lead-based makeup on their faces. Oh, wait. The Romans already did that. Here's where things get really interesting. Cleopatra's connection to pickles wasn't just about personal health. It was about power. In the ancient world, rulers often tied themselves to specific foods or rituals as a way to stand out. By associating herself with pickles, Cleopatra wasn't just saying, "Look how pretty I am." She was signaling discipline, vitality, and even divine favor. It's the same way medieval kings flaunted massive feasts, or how 1980s Wall Street types ordered power lunches. Food wasn't just nourishment, it was a statement. Cleopatra made pickles part of her narrative, reinforcing her mystique as someone who was both earthly and otherworldly. So, could eating pickles really enhance beauty? While there's no direct evidence that Cleopatra's complexion glowed because of cucumbers soaking in brine, there is something to be said for the health benefits. A diet rich in vegetables, even pickled ones, provides vitamins like A, C, and K, which are all good for skin health. Plus, hydration from cucumbers themselves may have contributed to a fresher look. But let's be honest, Cleopatra's beauty was probably less about pickles and more about genetics, clever presentation, and her ability to make powerful men swoon. Still, it's fun to imagine her turning down expensive oils and perfumes in favor of a pickle jar. Another reason the pickle myth stuck? Pickled foods were often seen as luxury items. They required resources, salt, vinegar, jars, storage, that not everyone could afford. For Cleopatra to casually link herself to pickles was like saying, "Oh, these old diamonds, just something I picked up at the market." It was subtle flexing, ancient Egyptian style. Imagine being a common villager chewing on plain barley bread, only to hear the queen bragging that her glow came from exotic brined cucumbers. It wasn't just beauty advice, it was social signaling. What's wild is that Cleopatra wasn't alone in elevating the humble pickle. In India, pickles, known as ahar, were prized for their spices and preservation qualities. In China, pickled vegetables were daily staples. Even Aristotle wrote about the medicinal properties of pickles. So Cleopatra's claim wasn't happening in a vacuum. Across the ancient world, pickles were being hailed as health-boosting superfoods long before modern marketing. In fact, Pliny the Elder, Rome's great natural historian, noted that pickled cucumbers were good for the health of the stomach. Granted, Pliny also wrote that mice could cure baldness if you ate them, so maybe we shouldn't take all of his advice too literally. So why does the story of Cleopatra and her pickle beauty hack still stick with us today? Probably because it's weirdly relatable. Humans love quick fixes. We want to believe that something as simple as snacking on pickles could unlock beauty, health, or charisma. It's the same impulse that fuels fad diets, miracle teas, and celebrity skincare lines. Cleopatra's pickle tale is basically the prototype for every one secret trick headline you see online. Fast forward to today, and pickles still carry this aura of being quirky, powerful, and a little bit mystical. Athletes chug pickle juice for cramps. Trendy bars serve pickleback shots. Social media influencers go viral just by crunching into a pickle on camera. If Cleopatra were alive today, she'd probably have a pickle sponsorship on Instagram with the caption, "Glow like a goddess." Let's wrap it up. Did Cleopatra really believe pickles were her beauty secret? Ancient sources suggest she did, but it's hard to separate fact from myth. What's undeniable is that pickles were a big deal in her time, valued for their health benefits and cultural significance. Whether or not they made her more beautiful, they certainly made her more memorable. At the end of the day, Cleopatra's love of pickles might have been a mix of truth, myth, and brilliant self-branding. Maybe pickles did help her skin, or maybe she just knew how to spin a good story. Either way, she gave us a legend that's lasted thousands of years, and a great excuse to justify our own midnight pickle cravings. So next time you reach for a pickle, don't just think of it as a snack. Think of it as a bite of ancient beauty history, a crunchy connection to one of the most famous women who ever lived. Who knows, maybe your glow-up is just a jar away. Thank you for watching.